All right, let's talk about the kind of good deals that don't stay good. Not the obvious scams, not the boats that are clearly trashed. I'm talking about the listings that look clean, sound exciting, and feel like you're about to beat the market. Because in the used sailboat world, the purchase price is often the smallest number you're going to see. And rookies get crushed because they buy a boat like it's a normal high-value purchase. It isn't. It's maritime engineering, admiralty law, and depreciating asset management wrapped in fiberglass and emotion. So here are the 7 rookie sailboat buyer mistakes that turn good deals into nightmares. Same breakdown every time. What it is, why it happens, how it becomes a nightmare, and what you do differently. Let's go. Mistake number 7, buying the wrong size boat for your real life. This one starts right at the beginning because rookies don't reconcile 3 things: your skill, your realistic use case, and the physical scale of the boat. And the mistake shows up in 2 directions. First, overbuying. New buyers equate length with safety and prestige, so they jump into a boat that's too large for their handling ability. But on the water, forces don't scale politely. They scale with surface area and displacement. That means bigger boats generate bigger loads, and they demand tighter systems management. And where this becomes a nightmare is not some dramatic storm, it's normal situations that suddenly feel impossible. Docking a high freeboard vessel in crosswinds, managing large sail area when the weather shifts, operating a complex set of systems you don't fully understand yet. So the boat becomes psychological stress. And when the person at the helm doesn't feel confident, the boat stops being recreation. It becomes dread. Family and friends feel it instantly. If you don't have confidence, your guests don't relax. The fun evaporates. And then the most expensive outcome hits. The boat sits dormant, deteriorating at the dock. Now the second direction, underbuying. Rookies try to be financially conservative, so they buy the smallest thing possible. And then reality hits. The boat is limited in stability, limited in cabin volume, limited in seaworthiness, and within months it feels obsolete. That's when two-foot-itis kicks in. You immediately want something slightly bigger. And the nightmare isn't just wanting more boat, it's paying the transaction costs twice, because trading up inside a single year means multiple rounds of commissions, multiple survey fees, multiple transport costs. So what's the fix? You buy with a 3 to 5 year horizon, not a weekend horizon. You choose a size that matches your competency and your real utility, not your ego and not your fear. You plan for where your skills and ambitions will be within a few seasons. And you remember this, the best deal is the boat you can actually operate, actually enjoy, and actually keep from sitting unused. Mistake number 6, believing the price tag is the investment. This is the most common rookie misconception. They see a low purchase price and think they just saved money, but the purchase price is the entry fee. Ownership is the commitment. And if you don't budget for the ongoing, non-discretionary costs, you're building a nightmare in slow motion. Professional maritime analysts suggest annual ownership cost typically runs about 10 to 20% of the boat's market value, and that number escalates for older boats that need restorative maintenance. And here's the key part rookies miss. These costs are largely fixed. They exist even if you barely use the boat. That means the boat can financially bleed you while it sits. What are those costs? Mooring or slip fees, insurance premiums, regulatory registrations, maintenance allowance, haul-outs, and winterization depending on region. Dockage alone can dominate your budget, and it's highly sensitive to geography and vessel configuration. You can see wildly different numbers based on where and what you own. A 44-foot catamaran circumnavigating the globe can average around $43.45 per night in docking costs, and that can spike to over $200 per night in high-demand regions like the Bahamas or the northeastern United States. In hubs like California, monthly slip fees can range from $9.50 per foot to over $40 per foot, and there can be additional surcharges for live aboard status. Even on a more typical 30-foot monohull, the regional differences are brutal. In a low-cost inland region, insurance might be $500 to $800 per year. In a high-cost coastal region, it can be $1,200 to $2,500. Mooring or slip fees can go from $1,500 to $3,000 per year to $8,000 to $15,000 per year. Annual maintenance can jump from $2,000 to $4,000 to $5,000 to $10,000. Haul out and winterization can go from $500 to $1,200 to $2,500 to $5,000. So how does this turn a good deal into a nightmare? You buy the boat, then you realize you can't afford to keep it. So you defer maintenance, you cut corners, and the boat enters a death spiral of devaluation. As systems fail and the hull deteriorates, the asset loses value faster than your savings ever helped you. That's how boats get abandoned. That's how boats get sold at a loss. That's how cheap boat becomes expensive regret. The fix is simple, but not easy. Budget for ownership before you buy. Treat fixed costs as mandatory. And remember that saving money on maintenance does not preserve value, it accelerates decay. Mistake number 5, financing like it's real estate. This one looks smart on paper to rookies. Low down payment, long term, smaller monthly number. But boats are not houses. Houses can appreciate. Boats are depreciating assets. So when rookies finance too long, like 15 to 20 years with low down payments, they set a trap for themselves, because if the economy shifts or the vessel's condition declines, you can quickly end up underwater. Not figuratively, financially. You owe more than the boat is worth, and now selling doesn't free you. Selling costs you. That's how a good deal becomes a locked door. You can't comfortably keep it, and you can't cleanly exit it. The analysis recommendation here is straightforward. Larger deposits, minimum 20%. Shorter loan terms, so your loan balance stays below the depreciation curve. In other words, match your financing structure to the reality that the boat is losing value. Because if you structure it like a house, you're building a nightmare that arrives later when you least want it. Mistake number 4, falling for the project boat mirage. This is the classic rookie fantasy. I'll buy it cheap, fix it up, and end up ahead. In this market, that outcome is almost never realized because the sweat equity myth collapses under marine realities. First, time and money estimates are wrong. Experienced restorers use the double rule. Whatever you estimate for time and money, expect at least double in reality. Novices consistently underestimate the cost of marine-grade materials. There's a marine premium that can be around 300% higher than residential equivalents. And then there's tooling. Restoration isn't just parts, it's equipment, and specialized tools accumulate fast. Even a single repair to a teak tow rail can require a bench circular saw, multiple power sanders, routers, planers, a vast array of clamps and chisels. So your cheap boat becomes constant spending. And then the opportunity cost hits. If you spend $30,000 and 5 years of weekends refitting a $30,000 boat, you might end up with a vessel worth only $35,000. Your labor is donated, your fund budget is depleted, and you didn't get the reward of sailing time. And it gets worse. An unfinished project boat is almost impossible to sell. So if you stall, the market punishes you. It gets handed off to the next enthusiastic buyer at a steep loss. Professional refits can be technically superior, but economically perilous. Boatyard labor rates can exceed the total value of the vessel. Look at how refit economics behave. An engine repower can run $8,000 to $15,000 in material, plus $4,000 to $8,000 in professional labor, and it adds maybe 60% of total cost in market value. Standing rigging might be $2,000 to $5,000 in material, plus $3,000 to $6,000 in labor, and it's essential for insurance, not resale upside. A complete rewire might be $1,500 to $3,000 in materials, plus $5,000 to $10,000 in labor, with negligible added market value. A teak deck refit can be $5,000 to $10,000 in materials, plus $10,000 to $25,000 in labor, and it can be negative value because buyers fear the maintenance. So how does this turn good deal into nightmare? You buy the boat to sail, but you end up trapped in an endless refit cycle. Your weekends disappear, your money disappears. The boat doesn't become a lifestyle, it becomes a burden. The fix: if you want to sail soon, avoid project boats. If you truly want a project, treat it as a separate hobby with its own budget and timeline, not as a clever investment. And never assume you're going to make money restoring a neglected vessel. That's not how this market behaves. Mistake number 3, skipping the survey or treating clean looking as sound. This is where nightmare deals are born. Because a sailboat is a structural entity under massive hydrostatic and aerodynamic loads, and hidden defects are common. Rookies see shiny topsides and a tidy interior and assume they're safe, but cosmetic condition is not structural integrity. The single most important step in the acquisition process is the pre-purchase survey by a professional independent marine surveyor. This is forensic investigation. Surveyors use tools and methods that buyers don't: moisture meters, percussion testing, thermal imaging. They look for issues invisible to the naked eye: hull delamination, osmosis, internal rot. And skipping this to save money is one of the primary causes of nightmare deals. Because once you buy it, those defects are yours, and fixing them can cost tens of thousands. Let's talk about hull pathologies that trap rookies. Fiberglass hulls can develop osmosis, also called hull blistering. Water penetrates the gel coat, reacts with chemicals in the laminate, and forms acidic fluid pockets. Some blisters are cosmetic, but widespread osmotic activity indicates failure of the moisture barrier, and it can weaken structural integrity. Even more dangerous, delamination. That's when fiberglass layers separate from each other or from a core material like balsa or foam. It creates soft spots, and delaminated sections lose strength and can fail under load.
And then there's a rigging and mechanical life cycle reality. Standing rigging has a finite lifespan in marine environments, typically 8 to 10 years. Stress corrosion cracking and meat hooks can be invisible until failure. A dismasting incident can easily exceed $30,000 in damages. Engines need real evaluation, oil analysis, cold start testing, because a marine engine can be cleaned up for sale while hiding internal corrosion or cooling system failures that end in replacement. There are inspection checkpoints that matter: hull laminate, percussion tap test. Dull thud indicates delamination or core rot. Gel coat, clustered blisters can indicate osmotic saturation. Keel bolts, rust streaks or gaps can indicate keel separation. Chain plates, crevice corrosion can lead to rigging failure. Through hulls, green crust or brittle metal can lead to catastrophic sinking. So how does this become a nightmare? You buy the good deal, then you discover the repair costs, or you discover your insurer requires repairs immediately, or you discover structural issues that make the boat unsafe. Now you're stuck between spending huge money or taking a huge loss. The fix? Independent survey every time, not optional. Not a luxury. And if the survey reveals structural delamination or significant osmosis, the smartest move is often the hardest one: walk away. The market is saturated with vessels. There is never a once-in-a-lifetime deal that justifies an unsound hull. Mistake number 2, ignoring titles, documentation, and secret liens. This is the mistake that turns a good deal into a legal nightmare, because maritime law is not the same as terrestrial property law, and rookies don't know what they're stepping into. The concept that destroys new buyers is in rem liability. In maritime law, the vessel itself is treated as the entity that owes the debt. That means if a previous owner failed to pay for certain things, the lien can follow the vessel, and lien holders can arrest the vessel under a federal court order, even if the new owner didn't know. These can include debts from salvage operations, crew wages, or significant repairs. And here's the nightmare detail: these liens can be secret because they don't necessarily have to be recorded publicly to be enforceable. Now add the U.S. dual system, state-level titling, and federal documentation through the USCG. Larger vessels, typically over 25 feet, are often USCG documented. A USCG abstract of title can show preferred ship mortgages and recorded liens, but it may not reflect local mechanics liens or unpaid dockage fees. So a rookie who doesn't conduct a thorough title search and doesn't demand lien-free representations can inherit debts that exceed the vessel's value.
That is a nightmare. You bought the boat, you paid, and someone else can still come after the vessel. So what's the fix? Use professional-grade risk mitigation strategies. Get the USCG abstract of title for documented vessels. Consider maritime title insurance for high-value assets because it can indemnify against undiscovered liens. Use escrow services to hold funds until title is cleared. And require seller indemnification, a contractual promise to pay prior debts. understanding that its strength depends on whether the seller actually has assets. This is not paperwork drama. This is the difference between owning a boat and owning a lawsuit magnet. Mistake number 1, buying the boat before you secure a home for it. This is the infrastructure mistake that rookies don't even consider. They think the deal is the boat. In many places, the deal is the slip. Marina infrastructure has not kept pace with demand. In popular sailing hubs, slip availability is a crisis. In desirable coastal regions, including California, Florida, and parts of the northeastern U.S., wait lists can range from 3 to 20 years. So what happens to the rookie? They buy the boat first, assuming they'll figure it out. Then reality hits. No slip, no contract, no place to live. And the nightmare costs start immediately. Without a home slip, you can be forced into transient rates that can hit $2,000 per month or more just to tie up. Some marinas have closed lists. Some charge transfer fees that can equal a significant portion of the boat's value. And wide beam penalties make this worse. Modern designs trend wider for interior volume. Catamarans amplify the problem. Most marinas were built for narrower monohulls from the 70s and 80s. A catamaran may require 2 standard slips or a specialized end tie. And marinas often charge a 100% premium, effectively double, for those vessels. So if you don't account for the width tax, you can instantly double your monthly operating budget. The regional picture is harsh. Southern California can run $25 to $45 per foot monthly, with wait lists 5 to 15 years and liveaboard status highly restricted with surcharges. San Francisco Bay can run $15 to $25 per foot monthly, with wait lists 1 to 5 years and liveaboard caps like 10% in many marinas. Chesapeake Bay can run $10 to $18 per foot monthly, with wait lists under 1 year and liveaboard generally available. And even outside the U.S., you can see infrastructure pressure in places like London canals, where there's a flat rate around £1,250 with wait lists 10 to 25 years and a continuous cruiser requirement.
So how does this turn a good deal into a nightmare? You buy a boat you can't keep, or you buy a boat you can't insure without a slip, or you buy a boat and get trapped paying extreme interim costs while the boat deteriorates and you lose money. The fix: before you buy, secure the mooring plan. Confirm slip availability. Confirm the rate structure. Confirm wait list reality. Confirm transfer fees. Confirm beam penalties. Because a boat with an assignable slip in a high-demand marina can be a better deal than a cheaper boat with no home and no infrastructure access. That's how this market actually works. Now, here's the thread that ties all 7 mistakes together. Nightmare deals aren't usually created by one dramatic error. They're created by failing to do professional-grade due diligence in an asymmetrical information environment. The seller usually knows more about hidden flaws than the buyer. So if you buy based on emotion, appearance, and price tag, you're volunteering to be the less informed party. The procurement strategy that works is not complicated, it's disciplined. Expand your definition of good deal beyond purchase price. Include insurance readiness. Include mooring status. Treat independent experts as part of acquisition capital, not optional add-ons. The independent surveyor matters because their interests align with you. And remember, brokers, even when helpful, are incentivized to close. And the psychological trap is always the same. You fall in love with the dream and ignore the red flags. The hallmark of a savvy buyer is the ability to walk away. If the survey points to delamination or significant osmosis, you walk. If the title and lien situation is unclear, you walk. If the slip situation is fantasy, you walk, because there are always more boats. The ocean is hostile to complacency, but this isn't just about the ocean. This is about the market. If you avoid the skill-capacity mismatch, the total cost of ownership fallacy, the financing trap, the project boat mirage, the survey failure, the legal blind spots, and the slip availability crisis, then the good deal stays good, not because you got lucky, because you bought like a professional. And that's the point. A sailboat isn't a normal purchase. It's a complex machine in a hostile environment, governed by unique legal and logistical realities. Do the due diligence, protect your capital, protect your time, and you'll end up with the only deal that matters, a boat that actually delivers safe, reliable, stress-free time on the water.